Continuing with our IBC section 3, I don't know how to introduce the next speaker other than to say that he's going to say a few words on Basava's many splendored life vis-a-vis Bhagavad Gita, Buddha, and Christ. There are several common denominators that drove me to dwell deep and dig into the lives and preachings and teachings of three of the greatest souls ever to grace the earth, namely Basava, Buddha, and Jesus Christ. They were the rebels of the first order. Basava was born a Brahmin, the highest caste in the Hindu religion. Buddha or Gautama was born as a Kshatriya, the second highest class or caste in the according to the Hindu religion. Jesus was born to Jewish parents. All of them tried to fathom and answer the universal questions such as who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I bound to? What is the mystery underlining my life? How can I achieve salvation, liberation, or moksha, or lingaikya, or nirvana? In doing that, they rebelled against the religions of their parents and ushered in a new philosophical thought, new religions. The second common denominator in their lives is the fact that all the three of them are or were the products of the socio-economic conditions they were born into. Basava revolted against the exploitation of the poor folks in the name of the religion, while Buddha fought against suffering, pain, and karma and rebirth. Jesus, Christ is his not last name. Christ means Messiah, and it is Peter Simon who gave him the title Christ. But Jesus fought against tyranny and oppression by the Jewish kings and Roman rulers. Basava and Siddhartha, they were born with a silver spring in their mouth, while Jesus was born with a wooden spoon, meaning his father Joseph was a carpenter, and he had trouble paying the taxes. All the three were firm believers in the equality and brotherhood of men and deplored discrimination based on the accident of birth. Of the three, it's only Basava who preached equality of men and women, the other two not. Buddha has trouble giving freedom to women to teach, to learn religion. They thought they made the religion or dharma impure. And Christ, as you know, he inspired Catholic religion, which after 2 millennia has yet to permit women to preach religion in the church. So you know what it is. Of the three, only Basava talked about the role of energy in this ever-expanding universe. Believe it or not, our universe is expanding daily. Basava spoke of this in the Shakti Vishishtadvaita principle, whereas Buddha and Christ say nothing about the role of energy. Buddha seems to be a firm believer Manu Code, as I told you earlier, that denied women the initiation into the twice-born class. That means they didn't have any freedom. And Buddha seems to have embraced it totally and completely until he was persistently persuaded by his aunt, who had raised him since he was 8 days old. Even then, he reluctantly gave only a small role to women. Buddha didn't believe in the value and virtue of kayaka. In that, he seems to suggest that one can live, eat, and die without working, mostly on charity. And he also seems to equate nirvana to himself. He says, he who sees me sees the dharma. He who sees the dharma sees me. Only, Buddha regards the soul as an extension of the desirous mind. There is no place for the soul in Buddhism. Neither is there a place for God in Buddhism. Okay. They deny it, but they substituted the Atma or the soul for nirvana. It is just a semantic, replacing one thing by another with the same characteristics. But it must be said to the credit of both Buddha and Basava that they never claimed revelation, divine inspiration, or motivation. Whatever they said about the in their spiritual message, it came from their heart, from their experience, from their life and from their insight, unlike other religious originators. And Buddha is known mostly for his noble eightfold truths, which is claimed to lead to nirvana. But we can find a similar thing in Basava's Vachanas or Sharana's Vachanas. Listen to it, please. If you should speak, your speech should sparkle like pristine pearls. If you should speak, your speech should sparkle like sapphire. If you should speak, your speech should shine like a crystal. If you should speak, your speech should please the Lord. If you do not walk your talk, how are you going to please the Lord Kudal Sangama? The second one is simple. Be careful in your talk and walk. And then there are lines I left open. Be always engrossed in the linga. A person with such qualities is a pristinely true Sharana, a Kandeshwara. See, they talk about concentration in the linga. They talk about all the 8 principles in these 2 vachanas, 8 principles of Buddha. You can find them in these 2 vachanas. There are at least 5 fundamental differences between Buddha and Basava. They are namely Atma, Karma, and Kayaka, rebirth, and status of women. As I told you earlier, Buddha denies the existence of Atma, but he was a firm believer of karma. Even to the end, Buddha died in his 80s. He preached for a long, long time. But still then, he believed in karma, the karmic fruit, the moral retribution. He believed in all. And he even claims that birth of his was the 12th birth. He doesn't believe in Kayaka, I mentioned to you. He also mentioned to you the discrimination meted out to women folks in Buddhism in those days. Now it has changed a little bit, but still it is there. Basava discards and disdains from the consideration of karma and rebirth. He regards Atma as a pristinely pure place where supreme conscience resides. Basava told us that women and men are equal in the eyes of Shiva. Throughout his long life, Buddha seems to have been completely concerned and haunted by misery and its cause and effect, rather than thinking them and treating them as a part of living, aging, and dying. Basava showed by his example that one can achieve salvation, nirvana, or lingaikya, leading and going through the trials and tribulations of family life through detachment, dasoha, kayaka, and practicing panchachara. Basava's words teach us the best way of living, the noblest way of suffering, and the most comfortable way of dying. Basava and Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, nobody knows when it was written. I think 2500 years BC or somewhere. And Basava lived 1200 AD. And what has one thing common with the other? Believe me, there is a lot of things common between Bhagavad Gita and Basava. Bhagavad Gita occurs in the Bhishma Parva of the great epic Mahabharata. And this involves the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, who stood frozen, bewildered, and bewitched on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Krishna says, Sarva dharmam parityajyam mamekam charanam. Forget everything, just surrender to me. And you find more than that in this Basava's Vachanas. Thou art my father, thou art my mother, thou art my kith, thou art my kin. There is none other than thou for me, my Lord Kudal Sangamadeva. This is nothing but total submission to God. That's what Krishna told to Arjuna, submit me, I will teach you. Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. I'm going to tell you about those. I'm not going to say 18 chapters. I never learned Sanskrit except in the 4th grade in the high school. And we had 7 grades in the high school when I was there. Nowadays there are 11. But the first chapter says, life is a challenge. Bhagavad Gita, as you know, means many things to many people. You can interpret it any way you want. Life is a challenge. That is the summary of the first chapter. Basava accepted it. Second chapter can be summarized as life is a gift. Basava shared it. Third one, life is an adventure. Basava dared it. The fourth one, life is a sorrow. Basava overcame it. Fifth one says life is a tragedy. Basava transformed it. The sixth one says life is a duty. Basava performed it. Seventh one is life is a game. Basava played the game. Eighth, life is a mystery. Basava fathomed the mystery. Next one is life is a song. Basava sang the vachanas. Life is a 10th chapter is life is an opportunity. Basava grabbed the opportunity because he was born at the right time, did the right thing. He took advantage of the opportunity that the existing social economic conditions gave him. He accepted it. And the next one is life is an opportunity. Basava grabbed it. Life is a journey. Basava traveled it. Life is a promise. Basava kept it. Life is a beauty. Basava dedicated that to Linga. Life is a spirit. Basava transcended it. Life is love. Basava dished it as dasoha. Life is a struggle. Basava conquered it. Life is a puzzle. Basava solved it. The last one is life is a goal. Basava accomplished it. These things, all the 18 things, I have woven into one long winding sentence. Let me read it to you. Sharana is seeking the supreme goal of Aikya of the spirit with the Linga, are duty bound to tread and travel with a game plane on a beautiful journey on the Basavapatha, which presents them with an opportunity, with an adventurous challenge, a promise and an opportunity. It demands them to struggle to fathom the mysterious puzzle of life by transcending sorrow, tragedy, and dishing out the gift of compassion and love through dasoha while performing kayaka and singing the songs or vachanas. This long winding sentence includes all 18 summaries of all 18 chapters. What has Basava and Christ common? There's a lot of things common. Both of them were compassionate and kind. But to think of Christ, as we know, is very difficult, because even after 2,000 years, Christ remains an enigma and mystery even to the most faithful followers. For his birth of date is not known, where he was born is not known, and where he lived after 2 years of his life, nobody knows, because his parents took him from Israel to Egypt, it is said, and they brought him back when he was 6 years. And after 13 years, he disappeared totally from Israel. For 17 years, he was absent. When he came back, you could see him giving sermons when the Roman soldiers were not watching. Wherever he could find people, he used to go on giving talks. Christ was a self-taught man. Nobody knows who taught him religion. We know that Basava went to Kudal Sangama. We know that Brahmin priest came to the royal palace to teach Buddha religion, who was loaded with all the pomps and pleasures of the royal palace and the pleasures of the flesh that money could buy. Buddha had a very good life when he was young until he left his palace. And what we know about Christ comes from 4 Gospels, which were written anonymously. Nobody knows who wrote them. All of them came after the 1st century. And the first recorded Gospels that are available were date 4th century. So nobody knows. They are all edited versions. The Old Testament says Moses went into the mountain 1200 years BC, came with a tablet containing the 10 commandments, while Basava lived amongst the people, served the people, walked the life, came with 7 commandments: steal not, kill not, speak not untruth, be not angry, show not contempt for others, do not showcase your pride, don't speak ill of others. This is how you can be pure from within and without. This is how you can please Lord Kudal Sangama. This is 7 commandments. He didn't have to go into the mountains, hide for several days and come back with miracles and genteel words. Christ attracted hundreds of people to him. He was a very kind soul. There is no doubt that Jesus touched the hearts of his followers with his deeds and words, compassion and kindness. He advocated passive resistance instead of active rebellion against the rulers. Knowing that people were meek and poor, powerless, he changed the tenets of the Old Testament, which called for an eye and tooth for a tooth. He says, I say to you, if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, then turn the other cheek. If anyone wants to sue you and take your coat, give him your cloak as well. I say, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go the 2nd mile. Give everything. Who begs from you, do not refuse to give anything. Give everything. Do not save anything for you. Do not keep your money. Give everything. If anyone asks to borrow money from you, give everything you have. Don't keep anything. Because he says, the Lord will protect you. And he gives the example of birds which can eat and live, and saying that God will take care of. That means he doesn't ask his people to work hard and earn the living, do kaya. This is the main point of difference between Basava and Christ. Christ can live on charity, but Basava can't. He worked. And you know his vachana, Araseve Madavanaya Dasohakan. He worked. He works for paying puja. He works hard for holding dasoha. He does, he earns every penny for everything he does. Jesus not appears to have put a greater emphasis on earning one's own livelihood, as I told you. In his last speech, which is a famous one called Sermon on the Mount, he says, "It is so strange and unfathomable that even after 2 millennia, the Christian religion that was inspired by Christ, that is Catholic religion, I told you, doesn't permit women to preach." Okay, that I told you. While our women our Veershaiva women had that privilege since the days of the Anubhavam. Basava stood as the epitome and essence of Lord Shiva, wanted the human beings to be godlike, for he represented the best among the best, the noblest among the noblest, the greatest among the greatest, the humblest against the humblest, the most pious amongst the pious, the most honest amongst the honest, the noblest, the most compassionate among the compassionate. Due to our negligence, we have strayed away from Basava path. It is time for us to pick up the principles of Basava, which are as good as today as they were when you pronounce them. And thank you for your patience.